start off today with Team Rocket getting a call. It's Giovanni, and he's wanting a progress report on Grookey. James notices Grookey is really scared, but Jesse just explains Grookey has been doing well so far. Giovanni is pleased to hear this and says if Grookey keeps improving, he might just consider reclaiming it for himself. With that, he ends the call. This makes Jesse want to get out there and make more progress Giovanni would be proud of. However, James is worried about Grookey. Grookey clearly doesn't want to go back to Giovanni, yet because of Grookey being pretty strong, it seems like the only thing that will happen. Jesse forces James and Meowth out of their hideout and out to steal Pikachu. When they run into Ash and Go and she calls for the gotcha machine, she ends up getting a Venipede, and they're easily blasted off into the distance. This only frustrates Jessie, but she doesn't want to give up. Team Rocket Trio all attempt to steal Pikachu, but this time Jessie gets a slack off, and they're blasted off again. Jessie only gets more frustrated but rather than trying again, she tries to pull as many different Pokemon from the gacha as she can until she finds a Pokemon she thinks will be strong enough. After 10 consecutive attempts, she doesn't get a single good Pokemon, which causes her to lash out at James for being the one to have Grookey. Although Meowth does point out that if a Pokemon was as strong as she wanted it to be, Giovanni might just want it for himself, so why would he leave it in the gacha? Jesse pays no attention to this, and has James attempt to get a Pokemon from the gacha. He does, receiving a Stunfisk. He really doesn't think it's that bad, but Jesse chalks it up as another bad Pokemon. This does get them questioning who even restocks the gacha with all these Pokemon in the first place. So with that, they decide to follow Pelipper, the one that brings them the gacha. Pelipper is actually surprisingly fast, and they have difficulty keeping up in their classic rocket balloon. And things only get worse once a storm hits and causes them to crash into the ground. Conveniently enough, it's right in front of a nice little cottage. They go inside and find it's actually a cafe run by none other than Cassidy. Cassidy talks to them, taking them in, giving them food, water, and shelter. As she helps them, she explains that despite her once elite status in Team Rocket, she's no longer a member. She was tired of the very episodic feeling tasks she had to do, and felt that there was more to life than that organization, so she left alongside Eradicate. The Rocket Trio are grateful for her help and decide to stick around in order to repay for her kindness towards them. So for a while, they work in her cafe, something that, as it continues on, Jesse notices James really likes doing. Once they feel like their debt is repaid, it's time to leave. However, Jesse actually tells James to stay. Meowth echoes this sentiment, having also seen that out of all of them, James was the happiest working with Cassidy. Before James can object, Jesse and Meowth run off and take their balloon to chase after Pelipper once more. Things don't go any better than their first attempt, and they end up losing track of Pelipper after days of chasing. Hungry, they decide to stop in a small seaside town. There they immediately are allured by the smell of freshly baked bread, a treat made by none other than Butch. Turns out he had quit Team Rocket for the same reasons as Cassidy, and is happier than ever here. He even has a new Pokemon partner in a female Meowth, one which Meowth takes an immediate liking to. Once again, Butch is kind to them and gives them some food, which Jesse and Meowth are grateful for. Due to wanting to repay their kindness, they stick around and help him with his bakery. After a few days, Jesse decides it's time to leave, but she convinces Meowth to stay, knowing he'd be happier with Butch and this female Meowth, which he'd been getting closer to over the past few days. She leaves them like they left James before, and once again, she's on a quest to find Pelipper. This goes even worse with her by herself, as a Swablu ends up popping her balloon, sending her crashing down to the ground in the middle of a desert. She still sees Pelipper and doesn't want to give up, so she takes off through the desert in a desperate attempt to catch up to it. However, it isn't long before she collapses from exhaustion. As she drifts off into unconsciousness, she begins to wonder why she's still doing any of this. Is it just for the recognition by Giovanni? She dreams that she's being woken up by James and Meowth, but unfortunately, she's just woken up by a drillbur. She gets up and tries to continue searching for Pelipper, only for her to run into a Silicobra. It's a Pokemon she's never seen before, and thinking it may please Giovanni, she tries to catch it. However, during the battle, Silicobra evolves. Now as a Sandaconda, it's just too strong for her, creating a sand tomb she and Wobbuffet become trapped within. She tries to call for help, but there's no response. Is this it for her? That's when James and Meowth come to the rescue, along with a little help from the Morpeko that's been following them around for some time now. James and Meowth tell her that while they were happy with their new lives, they decided to come back to Team Rocket in order to stay with her. They were a trio after all. They should stick together. They were able to meet up and find her thanks to Morpeko as well as chasing Pelipper. It's a tearful reunion that doesn't last long due to Sandaconda soon forcing all of them into the sand tomb. Morpeko tries to help them, but it's no use. Grookey isn't able to help either. They only have one option left. With all their might, they call out Pelipper in unison, and this actually works. Pelipper comes flying in with the gotcha, however, rather than giving them the gotcha, it fires it at the Sandaconda, which stops its attacking. However, the machine is broken in the process. Pelipper doesn't seem to care though, as it rescues the Rocket Trio. Once they're freed, Jessie throws a Pokeball and catches Sandaconda. She's very happy as she gives Sandaconda to Giovanni, and maybe this will make him very happy. However, James asks if that's really what she wants to do. He remembers her fondness for snake Pokemon like her former Arbok and Survivor. Meowth also adds that this is the first time Jessie has caught a Pokemon herself since Mimikyu. Plus, she wouldn't have to worry about the gotcha machine giving her a bad Pokemon. Does she really just want to give away Sandaconda like that? Jessie thinks for a moment. It is true she hasn't caught a Pokemon since her Mimikyu, but if she keeps a Pokemon, she'll just have to give it to Giovanni anyway. She might as well do so before becoming attached to it. But at the same time, there's already some sentimental value here, due to her catching a Pokemon for the first time since Mimikyu. She does miss having her own Pokemon too. Still, she's unsure. If she keeps it for herself, what will she do when she ultimately has to give up Sandaconda? However, James and Meowth say that there's more to life than Team Rocket, so Giovanni shouldn't be her main worry here. With that, they head back to their hideout. Almost immediately, they get a call from Matori, saying that Giovanni was told about the gotcha machine breaking, and as they're the main ones who use it, they're clearly the ones who need to be reprimanded. So they were told for the next few weeks they are no longer going to be able to go out into the field to catch things. Now they would be tasked with getting more people to join Team Rocket. So what do? Start an online radio show, of course. Now this episode is one of my personal favorites. If you can find it, I highly recommend giving it a watch. The episode is called A New Show, Team Rocket's Covert Kingdom Radio, in Japan, for those of you who are interested. Not much is going to be changed, so let's just glide over this. The Rocket Trio create a radio show in order to get more people to join Team Rocket, but nobody listens to it. Shocking, I know. They keep trying over and over again, tweaking things after each show until they start getting a pretty big following, including the likes of Professor Cerise and Ren, who both end up winning prizes for sending in letters. Team Rocket actually really like being radio show hosts, and even create all sorts of segments that are beloved by their audience. Their most popular one is a segment over them receiving letters and reading them. Some people's letters get them to receive little pins. And their favorite one won a premiere ball, which actually went to Ren. Some of their other segments include What's Inside of Pelipper, which kind of speaks for itself. Morpeko ASMR, which they only created due to the fact they're being eaten out of house and home anyway, so they might as well get views off people trying to guess what Morpeko's eating. And a segment that actually has more views than they expected, called Grookey's Greatest Hits. Grookey's little rhythmic taps were actually very popular with listeners, and Grookey became a favorite of the radio show's cast. After a while, though, they are taken off of the task, as not only is their punishment over, but they weren't even getting anyone to join Team Rocket at that point. But they still do their show as often as they possibly can. Now, you might be wondering about Ashgo and Chloe. What are they doing while Team Rocket is becoming radio sensations listened to by even the likes of Brock and Silent? Well, at this moment, Chloe's asked Ash and Go to come with her. She has another paper she's writing, and she wants to get an interview with a popular local trainer. Ash actually recommends they go see Visquez, as she's the substitute gym leader. But that's when Professor Cerise actually adds in that he's heard Lieutenant Surge is back now. So with that revelation, the trio are off to go speak with Lieutenant Surge. Before they leave, though, Yamper tries to get Chloe to take him with her, but she doesn't realize that's what Yamper wants, so she leaves him behind with her dad. Yamper doesn't like this, though, and chooses to leave the lab, following the trio. At the Vermilion City gym, they reunite with Visquez, introducing Chloe, who explains the situation. Visquez says she's sure Lieutenant Surge would be happy to. When Lieutenant Surge enters, he immediately locks eyes with Ash. He smirks, saying it's been some time since they last battled, and it's good to see him and his Pikachu again. He's not surprised to see Pikachu hasn't evolved, but he's sure it's gotten stronger. However, before they can test that, revealing he's also in the great class of the World Championships, Visquez tells him about Chloe wanting an interview. Lieutenant Surge laughs, saying he'd love to have an interview, so he sits down with Chloe. The interview goes well. Chloe learns a lot about what it means to be a gym leader. It's hard work, but they're almost like teachers at a school, but rather than lectures, they use these battles to help trainers grow. At least, that's how she sees it. Lieutenant Surge also talks about his time in the military, which helped him gain the title of gym leader once his service was over. He actually says he never would have come back from the war if not for an electric-type Pokemon saving his life. The interview is honestly fascinating to Chloe, but it's shortly interrupted by her Yamper. She apologizes and tries to have Yamper go home, but Lieutenant Surge finds the little electric type interesting, asking her if Yamper is her Pokemon. She says no, which actually upsets Yamper a lot. Yamper runs over to Ash and Go, which Chloe's confused by, but Lieutenant Surge knows what's going on. He asks her if she's a trainer. She nods, showing the gym leader her Eevee and Shieldon. She says Eevee and Shieldon have both been very interesting to her, and she's written many things about how the two act and their habits. Lieutenant Surge thinks that's a good thing for her to do, and also sends out his own evolution, a Jolteon, who he tells to go play with Eevee and Shieldon. With that, he sits down with Chloe again. Lieutenant Surge asks her if Yamper likes her a lot. She tells him that her family believes she's Yamper's favorite, even though she believes it's her dad's Pokemon. Lieutenant Surge then asks when the last time she gave Yamper any attention was, to which she says she hasn't been focusing on Yamper because she now has Eevee and Shieldon. That's when it hits her. Yamper was acting like this because she wasn't giving him any attention. Lieutenant Surge points out Eevee and Shieldon. He says he can tell she cares about them a lot, but because she's been spending so much time with them, Yamper has probably felt lonely and a little jealous. Chloe thinks back to when Yamper first joined her family. When she was little, she was a little jealous of Yamper, thinking it got more attention than her. But after a while, she warmed up to the little electric doggo. Chloe immediately runs over to Yamper, picking it up and hugging it as tightly as she can. She apologizes for not paying more attention to Yamper. She didn't mean to make Yamper upset, and from now on she's going to do better. This makes Yamper really happy, and he starts licking her face. Lieutenant Surge then suggests that the best way for her to make her bond with her Pokemon grow stronger might be to have a little battle. Chloe isn't really sure of this, though. She doesn't really battle much. However, Go reminds her that she was actually able to beat Ash's Gengar using Yamper in the past, something that does intrigue Visquez. Chloe still isn't sure, but she asks her Pokemon what they think. Both Yamper and Eevee really like the idea and seem excited by it, so with that, Chloe accepts the challenge and the battle begins. Lieutenant Surge decides the battle will be a double battle, where she can use 2 Pokemon against him. Surge goes for Raichu and Jolteon, while Chloe goes for Eevee and Yamper. Lieutenant Surge is really strong and both of his Pokemon are in perfect sync, able to combine their attacks in battle. Chloe's team, on the other hand, are the exact opposite. Yamper and Eevee are tripping over each other, they're arguing with each other. Sometimes they don't even hear what Chloe says because they're both too busy getting in each other's way. Chloe becomes unsure of herself, but she looks back at Ash and Go. She knows the 2 of her friends are close to their Pokemon, and she wants to be like that too. Something she never would have expected she wanted but before she became a trainer. She just has to believe in herself. Luckily, her Eevee has a secret weapon. Thanks to copying Rinto's Gabite a few episodes back, and using the move a lot, Eevee had learned Dig, but unlike the other moves it copied, Eevee actually remembers this one. So, once Chloe is able to get Yamper and Eevee to work together, they're able to use this to their advantage. Eevee will use Dig to attack, but anytime Lieutenant Surge's Pokemon dodge, Yamper will come in and take advantage of the opening. It's still a difficult battle, though, and despite her Pokemon working together now, Lieutenant Surge does come out on top. But that doesn't mean Chloe got nothing from this. Her Eevee and Yamper are actually starting to like each other again. She thanks Lieutenant Surge and thinks that this battle could help her with her paper that she's writing, and was wondering if she could see another. Lieutenant Surge knows exactly what that means, so he looks to Ash. And the 2 decide it's time for their rematch. One that'll decide who gets higher up in the World Championships. The battle begins, and it's a 1-on-1. Ash finds out that Lieutenant Surge is ranked much higher than him, all the way up at rank 720. If Ash wins, his rank will be boosted by quite a bit. So, Ash is all fired up. The 2 send out Pikachu and Raichu respectively, the exact same Pokemon they used when they first battled. Ash tries to go for a similar strategy to when he first beat Surge, by using Speed against Raichu. However, Lieutenant Surge is trained to combat this. In fact, his Raichu has been trained to learn all sorts of new moves. You get a few quick attack and Iron Tail clashes between the 2. However, in close-up battles, Lieutenant Surge shows to be much stronger, his Raichu now knowing moves like Thunder Punch and Brick Break as well in order to deal heavy hits in close combat. However, this allows Ash to find a way to beat Lieutenant Surge. With the use of Electro Web, Pikachu is able to immobilize Raichu, which turns the tides and allows Pikachu to win in the end. Lieutenant Surge is impressed by Ash's abilities in battle, thinking he might actually have what it takes. With that, the 2 shake hands before Ash finds out he's now ranked 769. The group thank Surge and Visquez for their time and head back to the lab. Once they're back, Chloe explains what happened to their father. She talks about how she's really glad that she met Lieutenant Surge, as she feels she really understands Yamper's feelings now. She asks her father if it would be alright for her to bring Yamper with her when she goes traveling. Something Professor Cerise tells her that, in a way, he's been hoping she'd ask that. Cerise goes on to say that Yamper was a rescue he adopted for the family, but throughout this time, he's always felt like it was meant to be her Pokemon. If not for Eevee, his plan was to let her have Yamper as her first Pokemon if and when she decided to become a trainer. Chloe hugs her father and thanks him before he allows her to catch Yamper for her own. The next day, she presents her interview with Lieutenant Surge to her school. She talks about Lieutenant Surge as a person and a gym leader, even talking about Surge's battles with her and Ash. She talks about what she believes a gym leader is meant to be like due to this experience. And at the end, she shows off her Pokemon as a testament to what she learned from Vermilion City's own. Her report receives high praises from her teacher, who commends her ability to keep the attention of her classmates. The next day, the three find out about a Pokemon eating competition, in which the winner will receive an all-expenses-paid trip to the Unova region, in order to try some foods that are exclusive to that area of the world. Ash and Go are both pretty excited by the idea and decide to enter. Chloe, on the other hand, doesn't really feel like participating in a competition, but she's happy to watch. When Professor Cerise overhears the trio making plans, he decides to make a day out of it, for everyone at the lab to go watch Ash and Go in this competition. So with that, they're off. The competition is pretty simple. Each participant selects a Pokemon to enter. That Pokemon will have to eat as much food as they can within a small amount of time. The final four will be selected to move on to the final round. Go checks his Pokedex and, based on the info within, decides his newly caught Squovet would be the perfect choice. Ash, on the other hand, decides to bring along Dragonite, who is really happy to help Ash. With that, they register and meet a few of their opponents, including a famous man known for winning this competition every year alongside his trusty Blaziken, and even disguised James of Team Rocket, who entered with Morpeko, who, as of late, Team Rocket has only been feeding during the Morpeko ASMR segment of the radio show, in order to prepare for this competition. Once everyone is situated, the competition is underway. The three frontrunners in the end are Go Squovet, Blaziken, and Team Rocket's Morpeko. Many trainers try and use all sorts of different strategies, like entering with Hydreigon due to its 3 heads, but these backfire for one reason or another. Ash thinks he might have a chance, but then he realizes Dragonite is savoring every food she eats, meaning in the end, he is among the disqualified. When the next round begins, it's between Squovet, Blaziken, Morpeko, and some random trainer's Swalot. This round has a special treat in Torchic-shaped cream puffs, which actually tug at the heartstrings of Blaziken, who sees them as its own young, causing Blaziken to forfeit the competition. This immediately brings the competition down to 3, and both Morpeko and Swalot are leaving Squovet in the dust. Squovet eats fast, but despite this, it seems to be no match. That is, until it evolves into Greedent, and gains a massive increase in appetite. Do this, and Morpeko becoming full not too long after, Go ends up winning a free trip to Unova. Go is very happy to visit Unova again, and that is Squovet evolved. Not long after he finds out that he's allowed to include guests on the trip, he decides to bring both Ash and Chloe to join him. So with that, the trio are off to Unova. The three arrive in Driftveil City to find a little bit of a festival going on. There's all sorts of booths that are set up that they're able to find foods from. Little do they know, Team Rocket has followed them to the Unova region, which James actually points out to the other Rocket members that since they're able to travel anywhere anyway, they never really needed to win the trip. Regardless, they take this opportunity to try and steal Pikachu. Ash, Go, and Chloe find themselves at the entrance to what's known as Clay Tunnel. They see a few Durant for a while, and as they're wondering about it, Team Rocket strikes using Grookey and Sandaconda. This battle doesn't last long, though, as after a while, their battle causes the ground to cave in underneath them, and the group fall down into the depths below. The group each wake up, realizing they've been split up for some strange reason. Jesse and James are with Chloe's Evie, Ash is with Grookey, Chloe is with Meowth, and Go finds himself with both Sandaconda and Pikachu. This is where the events of everybody's doing the underground shuffle is, of course. And to start off, I'll get the simplest ones out of the way. Both the groups of Jesse, James, and Evie, as well as Chloe and Meowth, happen the exact same way. Jesse and James work on a coordinated dance move for their motto alongside Evie, who they believe might actually be something they can do. Chloe and Meowth work together, with Meowth becoming so infatuated with how nice Chloe is that he actually considers becoming a Pokemon. Basically, Meowth is a simp now, just like in the originals. Now, let's get to the new stuff. First, we have Go's group. Go immediately wants to go looking around for a way to get out of these tunnels. Sandaconda tries to help, but Go treats it poorly, as Sandaconda is a Team Rocket Pokemon, so he thinks it has ulterior motives. Pikachu, strangely though, does seem to trust Sandaconda, and tries to get Go to work together with them. However, no matter what, Go just doesn't like working with Sandaconda. Soon they come to a clearing with several Durant. Go figures that these Durant created several tunnels connecting into Clay Tunnel, which is what got them into this situation. That's when they're noticed and the Durant start to get hostile, specifically towards Sandaconda. Confused, Go checks his Pokedex, only to find that apparently Sandaconda and Heatmore are both natural predators of Durant. Go gets annoyed by this, thinking this is just more proof of Sandaconda being a bad Pokemon, which actually makes Pikachu mad, causing Go to get some sense shocked into him. After being hit with a Thunderbolt, Pikachu berates Go, although Go can barely understand the electric type at first. It takes a while, but eventually the message gets across, and he notices that Sandaconda is actually trying to fight the Durant alone. Not because it wants the eggs, but to buy the two some time and help them escape the battle that's its own fault. Finally, Go realizes he's been acting irrationally, and he chooses to save Sandaconda by having Pikachu Electro web some of the Durant. Once the Durant are distracted, he picks up Sandaconda and they all begin to run away. Sandaconda is very grateful for the assistant, and after all that, Go apologizes to Sandaconda. He admits he was wrong to misjudge it. He never misjudged Grookey, but that may have been because he met it before he or Ash found out Grookey was a Team Rocket Pokemon. Speaking of which, what's going on with Ash and Grookey? Well, once the two realized they had been separated from the others, Ash and Grookey began working together to find a way out. Ash even gets the idea to have Gengar look around for the others, as it can phase through walls. Meanwhile, Ash and Grookey walk through the tunnels trying to find out a route out there. They eventually come across a crossroads in the tunnel, and this is where Grookey steps up. He uses its stick to cause vibrations going through the cave. Whichever tunnel seems right based on those, they go down. Ash is actually really impressed with Grookey as a Pokemon. He's already seen that it's pretty strong, and it's already come in handy now in trying to find a way out of these tunnels. His praise for the little grass type actually seems to really excite it, as it begins to beat against nearby rocks happily. The way it acts makes Ash curious. It's almost as if Grookey hasn't gotten much praise before. He asks the little monkey Pokemon about itself as they walk. He asks what it's been like to be a Pokemon belonging to Team Rocket, something that makes Grookey mixed in emotions. This helps Ash realize what Grookey's been like. Life hasn't been bad with Jesse and James, but you can tell that Grookey doesn't like someone in Team Rocket. Whoever that someone is probably scares Grookey, and might have even mistreated it. Ash tells Grookey that if there is someone in Team Rocket who scares him, he shouldn't let them. From what he's seen, Grookey is a strong Pokemon that he's sure can handle any threat that comes his way. Besides, what should stop Grookey from being happy? Grookey finds comfort in Ash's words and actually climbs up onto Ash's shoulder. The two laugh and enjoy themselves as they walk. That is, until they run into a wild Heatmor. This is a bigger Heatmor than normal, and it's also pretty violent, attacking them out of nowhere. Ash is about to call in one of his other Pokemon, but he notices Grookey actually really wants to battle itself, so he lets it. With battle begun, a grassy terrain forms, boosting Grookey's grass-type moves. Grookey shows off its fast speed, and that it knows a move it normally wouldn't at its current level in acrobatics. However, this just isn't enough to easily beat Heatmor, whose powerful Fire Lashes knock Grookey back. Luckily, the grassy terrain does seem to heal Grookey, but it needs more power. That's when Ash gets an idea. He calls for Grookey and tells it to use the walls of the cave to boost acrobatics, something Grookey tries. Rather than simply attacking in the air, it'll leap from the ground to strike, then use the walls and ceiling as footing to continue the assault with multiple leaping attacks. This catches the Heatmor off guard for a while, but then it manages to grab Grookey in a bind. Grookey cries out in pain, shutting its eyes. Then it notices Heatmor starting to loosen up a bit. It opens its eyes to see Ash tugging on Heatmor. Ash tells the grass type that he's not going to let this fight end here. He's going to back up Grookey, and he knows Grookey can win. Heatmor knocks back Ash with a Fire Lash across the face. Grookey can't help but watch as Ash falls to the ground. This makes the little monkey Pokemon furious. Ash was actually showing it kindness, and this Heatmor had attacked him. That's when Grookey begins to glow, and soon evolves into Thwackey. With its newfound power, it manages to break out of Heatmor's grasp. Quickly, it rushes to Ash's side and makes sure he's okay. When Ash assures it that he'll be fine, they resume the fight. Thwackey goes in for a double hit, which hits Heatmor hard. Ash and Thwackey keep going, with Ash calling for a branch poke. However, this is a lot less of a poke as the two come to find out. Thwackey has just learned Wood Hammer, which it rapidly uses to beat against Heatmor, not even realizing when exactly it knocks its opponent out. Once the battle is over, Ash and Thwackey celebrate a bit before trying to find a way out again. After a while, everyone finally managed to escape Clay Tunnel. Go returns Sandaconda to Jessie, saying to look after it, as it's a good Pokemon. Ash also returns Thwackey to James, saying he hopes he gets to battle Thwackey again, as it's a really strong Pokemon. James is actually surprised that Grookey had evolved at all. Because Ash and Go took care of their Pokemon, they give Eevee back to Chloe, before a misunderstanding with Team Rocket and Meowth, where Meowth tries to profess his love to Chloe, but says it to Jessie and James instead. As Ash and Go are talking, James looks between Thwackey and Ash. He couldn't believe that Grookey had evolved. Grookey didn't seem to be growing any stronger under their care. That's when it hits him. He calls over to Ash. Confused but compliant, Ash walks over. James says he couldn't thank Ash enough for helping Grookey become stronger. Ash doesn't really know where this is going. That is until James hands Ash Thwackey's Pokeball. He tells Ash that he never could have gotten Grookey to evolve. Grookey was strong, but Ash seems to be a better fit for it. At first, Ash tries to refuse, but James says that he can tell Thwackey really likes him already. The two seem to be close after that. If he kept Thwackey, it would just end up being given to their boss, and he knows that's not what Thwackey wants. what's best for Thwacky is to be with Ash. Ash looks to Thwacky and asks if it's okay for it to join his team. Thwacky looks to James, who nods. So with that, Thwacky agrees. James says his goodbyes, as do the rest of the Rocket Trio. They begin to leave, but not before Thwacky calls to them. It runs over and gives James one of his sticks as a goodbye gift. The Rockets are really moved by this and give Thwacky a big hug, saying that they want Thwacky to become the strongest Pokemon in the world. They know Ash is going to be taking on the World Championships, so they tell Thwacky to become strong enough to help Ash become the world's strongest trainer. Thwacky makes this promise, before saying goodbye. A tearful goodbye, Thwacky is no longer a member of Team Rocket. Something the trio do inform their boss of. At first, their boss is confused, but when they say they believed they weren't fit to help Grookey become stronger, causing them to give it to a more suitable trainer, Giovanni understands, and even goes a little far by saying he's not surprised by their actions, although he is still disappointed. After their status report with Giovanni, Morpeko tries to cheer James up. He thanks the little Pokemon, and then a thought occurs to him. Since meeting Morpeko, it's always stayed with them, even managing to find them after they all went their separate ways momentarily. So now that he's noticed Morpeko is truly a member of the team, he catches it. After that, they go on the air for the radio show to inform their dear audience that, as of that very day, Grookey was no longer a member of their show. It was now following its dream to become a strong Pokemon by taking on the World Championships, alongside a trainer by the name of Ash Ketchum. They tell their audience to cheer on Grookey as loudly as they can, and wish this trainer the best, as they will be too. The next morning, back in the Unova region, the group is deciding what to do with their time. That's when they bump into Driftvale City gym leader, Clay. Ash and Clay catch up briefly, with Clay mentioning he heard Ash is taking on the World Championships. Ash asks if Clay was participating as well, to which Clay denies, saying mining and being a gym leader takes up too much of his time for him to participate. However, if Ash was looking to become stronger, one of those battle festivals the World Championship holds was actually going to be taking place at the new Pokemon World Tournament building. There's even rumors one of Unova's Elite Four will be participating. This really excites Ash, who sends out his whole team, now having Thwacky swapped out for Dragonite, who he knows doesn't really seem to like battling. He tells them all they're entering another battle festival, and he wants them all to do their best. It'll be Darumaka and Thwacky's first, so he's hoping they'll do really well, especially if they get the chance to face an Elite Four member. That's when Clay mentions some of Ash's rivals from his Unova journey may be participating, so with how big a festival it could be, Ash should hurry and get registered. And that's where we're going to be leaving things, right now. So what do you guys think? How do you feel about Lieutenant Surge helping Chloe better understand her Yamper? What are your thoughts about Team Rocket giving Ash Thwacky? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you all on the next video. Bye!